Hi ADHD friends, ready to become gutsy cooks? Let's start now. Today we're going to make sweet potato ginger soup. This soup is very warm and filling, especially on a winter's day. First, you're going to gather your equipment and ingredients. This is a good time to pause the video if you want to see the list to gather your equipment and ingredients. And for our visually impaired friends, I will be reading the list. You can either let it run or go to the next timestamp. You're going to need a cutting board, a chef's knife, little bowls, measuring spoons, a large heavy bottom skillet with a lid, tongs, the longer the tongs, the better, a ladle or deep mixing spoon, a hand blender or emulsifier. This is different than a hand mixer, as you'll see in the video, and a whisk. For ingredients, you'll need 1/4 cup of light olive oil, 3 large sweet potatoes, 1 large red onion, 1 tablespoon of dried rosemary. You can also substitute thyme if you don't have rosemary, 1 cup of water, 1/4 cup of red wine vinegar, 1 teaspoon of coarse salt, 1 teaspoon of ground ginger, and 4 cups of vegetable stock. You can also replace the vegetable stock with chicken stock if you have that. Definitely use light olive oil, as virgin olive oil is not suitable for coating the potatoes and cooking them at a high heat. Get ready. First, you're going to measure all your liquid and your dry ingredients. Measure out the red wine vinegar, the rosemary, which you can substitute thyme if you don't have rosemary, coarse salt, and the ginger. The reason we use coarse salt is if you use table salt, you can easily overdo it. So light olive oil, remember this has to be light olive oil. Extra virgin olive oil will not be able to stand the heat for sauteing the sweet potatoes, and it will turn bitter. Here you can use vegetable stock or chicken stock. Now we're going to cut the sweet potatoes. Actually, we're going to peel and cube the sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are rather dense, so you need a really sharp knife, and you can tell that my knife is a little too dull in this video. Kind of watch for it. When you go to peel the sweet potato, put it down on the cutting board and peel away from you. You don't want to hold it in your hand and use the sharp peeler. This way you get to keep all your fingers and your fingernails. Okay, so I started by slicing the ends off, but you'll see that that's not the most efficient way. The most efficient way to cut the sweet potato is to cut it in half and cut each half lengthwise, like you just saw me do. And then you make 3 more cuts, and you have the cubes you need. Take the other quarter lengthwise and cut it into cubes. Cutting it from a slice, you see you have to make a lot of extra cuts, and then the task would become rather laborious. So to cut your red onion, you're going to start by cutting the ends off, and then you're going to peel that outside kind of papery cover. You're going to then cut it in half so that you have 2 flat halves. And then using a proper grip on your knife, you're going to push and slice all of your onion. You'll notice that my fingers bend out and not under. That is a bad habit, but it is also how my fingers grip. Place the skillet on the stove and add your olive oil. Turn the stove to medium-high heat, which is 7 to 8, and set a timer for 3 minutes. Combine. Add the sweet potato and the red onion to the hot skillet. You want to make sure the slices of sweet potato are not stuck together as much as possible. You can always break them up with your tongs. Use the tongs and coat the sweet potatoes and onions with the olive oil. Take your time getting them into the pan. That is hot oil at this point. You want to take a firm grip on your pan, and the longer tongs, the better. Go ahead and toss the sweet potatoes and onions, as you can see there. Then you're going to sprinkle your rosemary or your thyme, either one, over your sweet potatoes. And you're going to add the water and the red wine vinegar. I want you to be aware that it will be loud when you add the liquid because you're adding liquid to oil. So it is likely to sputter a bit, and I want you to be prepared. Now it's time to turn up the heat. You're going to set a timer for 5 minutes and let that cook covered. After 5 minutes, you're going to remove the lid and toss the vegetables with the tongs again, and then cover it back up, and you're going to cook it for 5 more minutes. After a total of 10 minutes cooking time, you're going to remove the pot from the heat. Finish and serve. Sprinkle the mixture with coarse salt and ginger. Then you're going to add half of your vegetable stock. So you're going to add 2 cups of the 4 cups of vegetable stock. Here's where the real fun begins. You're going to use the hand emulsifier to blend the sweet potato and onion until smooth. Now you can see the blade is under that safety cap right there, and you kind of have to get those sweet potatoes like a video game. Push them. You can do a nice swirl once in a while. It seems laborious, but it really isn't. It takes maybe a couple of minutes. I find that this process is safer than ladling or pouring it into a food processor, then pouring the hot mixture back into the pan to finish it. To me, that's an opportunity for burns. However, in the printable recipe at gutsycooks.com, I do put the full set of instructions for using a food processor because I realize not everyone has a hand blender or emulsifier. You're going to give it a couple final swirls, and then that part is finished. Next, you're going to add your other 2 cups of vegetable or chicken broth. I like you to use vegetable broth in this recipe, and you're going to whisk. If you prefer a thicker soup, you can use less stock in this step. However, when you go to store it, the potato absorbs a lot of the liquid. And if you're going to reheat this at all or have to hold it for any amount of time, you're going to want this extra bit of liquid in there. All right, extra fancy. This soup has a lot of kick all on its own, but if you want, you can add chili powder or extra ginger for an added kick. Start with a 1/4 teaspoon at a time. You can always put more spice in, but you can't take it out. This soup can be stored in an airtight storage container for up to 3 days in the refrigerator. Now also, to make this extra fancy, I like to put a dollop of sour cream on the top. It's delicious and it's pretty. This dish is a healthy choice for any diet and really yummy. Enjoy. If you like this recipe, please subscribe. Thank you for your time and attention. Now go get gutsy.